There's something unsettling neuroscientists discovered about human life. Your brain is physically incapable of recognizing the moment your life starts changing. Not metaphorically, literally. Research shows we only identify turning points years after they happen. Which means, if your life were about to transform today, your mind wouldn't experience it as a breakthrough. It would feel like confusion, like delay, like another ordinary, slightly frustrating day. So here's the question. What if the day everything finally works out feels exactly like a day where nothing is working out? And what if that day is already happening? Most people imagine change as a visible moment, a big decision, a clear opportunity, a breakthrough they can recognize while it's happening. But real life rarely works that way. Real change usually begins inside a phase that feels directionless. A stretch of time where you're trying to move forward, but results don't arrive fast enough to feel real. You wake up, you do what you can, you question whether it's working. You go to sleep without clear answers. From the outside, your life looks normal. From the inside, it feels like you're stuck in between versions of yourself, no longer who you used to be, but not yet who you're becoming. And this in-between phase creates a powerful illusion. It feels like nothing is happening. Neurologically, periods of real transformation rarely feel like progress. When your habits begin shifting, when your thinking starts evolving, when your identity slowly updates, your brain experiences that as instability. And the brain dislikes instability. It prefers familiar discomfort over unfamiliar growth. So instead of recognizing progress, your mind sends warning signals. You're behind. You're lost. This isn't working yet. Not because you're failing, because your internal patterns are being rewritten. Growth in real time often feels like uncertainty, not clarity. Life trajectories rarely shift through one dramatic event. They shift through small decisions made repeatedly on ordinary days. Continuing when motivation is low, starting before you feel ready, trying again without immediate reward, adjusting your thinking by a single degree. None of these feel important while they're happening, but direction doesn't change through intensity. It changes through repetition. A 1-degree shift today looks insignificant. Months from now, it can place you somewhere you never expected to reach. And from the inside, you won't feel the shift occurring. You'll just feel like you're navigating another uncertain day. Here's the part most people miss. You can be in the middle of your life changing and still feel like nothing is working. Because the brain only recognizes turning points in hindsight. Only after enough time passes, only after results appear, only after the story connects, does your mind go back and label certain days as important. Years later, you'll look at a specific period and say, that's where everything started changing. But while you were living through it, that period didn't feel meaningful. It felt slow, unclear, easy to underestimate. Transformation rarely announces itself while it's happening. It hides inside ordinary time. So here's a possibility worth considering. You might already be inside the phase that is changing your life. Not the visible success, not the final outcome. The confusing middle that comes before it. The days where you're learning, adjusting, continuing without proof it's working yet. What feels like delay can actually be construction. What feels like being lost can be your life reorganizing itself into something more aligned. And because the change is gradual, you don't experience it as transformation. You experience it as another ordinary day. One day in the future, there will be a version of you living a life that finally makes sense. Clearer direction, greater stability, a calmer mind. And if someone asked that version of you, when did everything start working out? They probably won't point to the day success arrived. They'll point further back, to a stretch of time that felt ordinary, uncertain, even frustrating. A period where nothing seemed dramatic enough to be called a turning point, but it was, because that was the phase where small decisions quietly changed direction, where persistence existed without guarantees, where your life wasn't falling apart, it was rearranging itself. So if your life currently feels slow, if progress feels invisible, if you're moving without certainty, understand this. You may be living through days that will only make sense in hindsight. Days that don't feel important now, but will eventually be seen as the beginning of something real. Not because they looked powerful, but because you continued when nothing guaranteed results. And sometimes that quiet persistence is exactly where life begins to change. If you're building your life inside a phase like this, you're in the right place. This channel is for people living through uncertain chapters that later become turning points. Subscribe. One day we'll all look back at this period and realize it mattered far more than it seemed while we were living it.